Okay, just to walk you through the polar bear here, it's kind of hard for me to show both sheets of paper, so I've got one partly covered up here. When we start with the polar bear, from now on when I go to draw it, I'm not going to use any polar bear words, but I may use words that feel more relaxing to your brain. When I start drawing an animal, I usually start by drawing the face because I can place it on the page where it makes sense to make sure the rest of it fits on in a way that makes sense. So I'm going to start with these two shapes, and they're kind of triangles that face each other, that point toward each other. And like I said, I'm not going to use any words that have to do with this animal right now. I'm just going to consider it a bunch of lines. So I'm going to draw these two triangles. I leave a little white space in there because there's one in the picture. You can do that if you like. Then when we look at this shape, it kind of looks like an arc, and there's you can kind of break it down in your mind about what it looks like. So we kind of have a half circle below with an extra little piece on top. And we can draw those two different pieces as part of it because then we can color it all in. And I'm just going to zoom through this just for the sake of a shorter video. So we could fill that all in because it's going to be black in real life. Then over here we have one little line, and just thinking about those those elements like thin line, thick line, curved line, angled line, straight line. We have a gently curving line that goes down. It's kind of thick, and then we have kind of a hamburger bun shape here underneath. To finish that off, and then a little curve on this side and a little curve on that side. Then we have this shape here, which kind of looks like an apple shape, and it just kind of ends in the middle of nowhere. It's not really anchored to anything. So we go up a little bit, and then we gently come down and go back up again, and then we curve back down around, and we stop, and it just kind of stops there in the middle of nowhere. Then we have this shape here. It comes out and down and then curves and doesn't quite meet with anything either. So we're going to curve up here and in just a little bit, and then a nice little curve that comes down, and then a scribble there. Over here we have one that kind of matches, but it comes out and around. It doesn't touch the apple head. It kind of goes really, really, really close and then drops all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so we have a shape that starts up here and comes out, comes really close to the other line, follows it for a little bit, and then goes all the way down to the bottom and kind of ends in a random place, and then we have a scribble here. All right, we're going to move now to this shape over here, and I apologize that this isn't going to show up as well as I'd like it to. Let me try this. Oh, yeah, maybe this will be better. Okay, so we can see this shape here starts and it comes down here, kind of like a big sliding hill is how I like to describe it. So we'll start here, and we're going to make a big sliding hill that comes down, 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 down. And then we have this little piece here that kind of shows up in the background, kind of like a little mountain in the distance. And we'll move this like this now. Sorry about this again. I'll have to get to a store to get a more professional setup for making these videos. Okay, and now we have kind of a big candy cane shape. And so we start here, and it makes a big candy cane shape and comes down and around, down here to the bottom, and it curves around. And then we have these shapes that are kind of pointy, and we do these kind of pointy shapes here. And I'm going to go back up again. Now we have this line here, and I like to describe this as an extremely exciting sliding hill, and then it ends badly. So we're going to see if I can get this all in here. We're going to start up here. We kind of look back and forth to see where it compares to those other shapes that we did. And we have a sliding hill that comes down, 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 and then it ends badly. And then this kind of goes along the bottom, and this doesn't always work. This doesn't always end up exactly like we want it, so we're not going to sweat that too much if it doesn't match up like we want it to. Okay, kind of ends like this. Okay. Now this shape here is one that people kind of stress about how they're going to get all that fitted in there. I'm going to go up here like this so you can kind of see both at the same time. I draw this line first and then come around and do some zigzags at the end, and then that kind of anchors everything, and then we know where to put everything else. Now notice I'm not using any nouns that have to do with this animal. So we have a line that comes this way, kind of slants down a little bit, and then we kind of have some zigzags at the end. Okay, now we can go back and we can see that just after that line started, we have a little bump, and then a little apple shape, and then another little bump. So we'll do a little bump, and then a little apple shape, and then another bump. Okay, then we have a really, really boring sliding hill, and then we have this banana shape. So this banana shape comes up, and it comes around like this, and then this all kind of hooks together if we're lucky. And then there's this funny little line here. And now we can go back over to here, and we can see where there is just kind of a little curve and another little blob, and then we make another one of those those boat shapes, except smaller, and then kind of a little triangle shape like this, and then that connects there, that's connected there, and then we can add this line along the bottom to anchor everything, and that gives the feeling. These lines here are important. This line here and these lines here, that really helps the animal feel like it settles down on the surface. Now when we look at it, oops, we've got a couple little lines in here. When we look at it back and forth, we can double check to see if we've forgotten anything, to see if we've forgotten any lines or anything. And when we look at our picture, we kind of have an animal that's kind of floating on the page. And we don't want it to feel like it's floating on the page. So the way we get rid of that feeling is to add a little bit of a background line there and a little bit of a background line there. And then that really gives a feeling that the animal is settled down onto the surface. So I drew the whole thing without thinking about, oh, how do I draw the leg? How do I draw the claws? How do I draw the ears? All those things. All we had to do was look back and forth and think, where does that line go? What's it look like? What's it connected to? If it helps you to look at the head and say, oh, it's kind of shaped like an apple, then by all means draw an apple, because that's a little bit more relaxing to our brain than saying, how do I draw a polar bear head? And if you're going to draw a polar bear nose, it's more relaxing to say, hey, that looks like a boat, and I can draw a real simple boat, outline of a boat, than to say, oh, a polar bear nose, really? Okay, so that is kind of how to think about the polar bear. Just think about how the lines are angled, how they're shaped, how they're curved, and go from there. So that's a polar bear. If you'd like, if you have any colors, or if you want to, give it a try for colors. Usually we color the background in all different colors because we call them Northern Lights then, and we color a little bit of blue down here where the snow is, because sometimes snow appears kind of blue, and then the polar bear stands out. But I imagine you're more interested in just the graphite. And this is really a 2D drawing now. We've gone from lines, just thinking about all the different kind of lines. Now we have a polar bear shape. And this particular project isn't designed to go on to be a form or to look 3D. So really this is where I ended, but if you want to add some more shading in some places, you're welcome to do that. Okay? All right. Thanks, Joey. Good luck.